I can't say that I spend a lot of time hanging around racist white people, but I will say this. They will always find a way to make themselves out to be the victim.
Man, I tell you what, nothing makes racist white people more pissed off than me, a white person, trying to educate about racism and trying to educate about what white privilege is and all these things. And it's so funny because these same people will argue with me till they are blue in the face about how they're not racist and we don't live in a racist institution and black and brown people have it so easy and racism doesn't exist anymore. But then they will turn around and say the most racist, ignorant, vile shit you've ever heard in your life.
For the past several days, all I've heard was either how much people have loved or hated Charlie Kirk. And I'm going to be honest with you. I could not stand the man. And the more that has come out about him, the more that I didn't like him. The videos circulating of things he said and done. And it just goes to show that white folks are so sick of racist, narcissist white people that they are now turning on each other.
White people? Let's talk about it. Let's talk about our violence. White violence. No more deflecting. No more blaming everything on everybody else. Let's confront ourselves. White people in America, our history is so extremely violent. And instead of confronting that, we continue to blame other people for the issues and the problems in this country, instead of just taking ownership of our part to play in everything, which is a huge part.
It's a strange thing to watch when white people start turning against white supremacy itself. For so long, silence was the norm. Don't talk about race, don't make it political, but something has shifted. For the first time, in a long time, we're seeing white people publicly calling out other white people for their racism, their privilege, their complacency. And what's more surprising, it's not performative this time. It's not just hashtags and black squares. It's confrontation. It's accountability. This moment didn't happen overnight. It came after years of ignoring it, after watching communities burn, after hearing the same excuses. But now, white people are finally starting to say what many black and brown voices have been shouting for centuries, that racism isn't just an accident, it's an inheritance. And to fix it, you have to confront it at home, around the dinner table, in the workplace, in the mirror.
White people? Let's talk about it. Let's talk about our violence. White violence. No more deflecting. No more blaming everything on everybody else. Let's confront ourselves. White people in America, our history is so extremely violent. And instead of confronting that, we continue to blame other people for the issues and the problems in this country, instead of just taking ownership of our part to play in everything, which is a huge part. Can we stop scapegoating other groups of people, please, and just look at ourselves? White people, it's time to talk about it. Like, it's long past time. Getting rid of other groups of people in this country is not going to make this country better. It's not going to make your life better. It's not going to make you better. I think white people are so scared to talk about race and to talk about white violence and white supremacy because they don't want to connect themselves to it. We don't want to feel like we're a part of the problem. But unless you're acknowledging the reality of how the US, this country, runs, you are a part of the problem. I truly believe in my heart, in my soul, that if you're born a white person in this country or on this planet, but I'll just speak about this country, part of that journey is to dismantle systems that have been built to oppress other people. The hard work of life is to confront yourself. How do I benefit from the way that things are? And how does my benefiting from those things harm other people? And instead of walking around with, 1,000-pound bag of shame on your back, consider it your responsibility to do that work. Consider it an opportunity that you are in the best possible position to make this world a better place. by not accepting racist and prejudiced and oppressive systems for what they are and trying to contribute to changing them. Use the privilege that you have for good. I don't think that anybody can ever really love themselves without being honest about themselves, without being honest with themselves. And that work is painful and hard, but it's so worth it. White people, you don't have to consciously think that you're better than other people in order to contribute to harm against them. All it takes to contribute to harm is to stay silent and disengaged. White people, can we finally get this shit right? Can we finally take accountability? Can we finally look ourselves in the mirror and decide that this isn't good enough? We're not doing a good enough job. You aren't losing because somebody else is safe and cared for. You aren't losing because somebody different than you exists. White people, let's talk about it. Let's start having these conversations with ourselves and with each other. It's time.
Man, I tell you what, nothing makes racist white people more pissed off than me, a white person, trying to educate about racism and trying to educate about what white privilege is and all these things. And it's so funny because these same people will argue with me till they are blue in the face about how they're not racist and we don't live in a racist institution and black and brown people have it so easy and racism doesn't exist anymore. But then they will turn around and say the most racist, ignorant, vile shit you've ever heard in your life. The disconnect is amazing. And this is why I make content like this, because it's so important, because we do live in a racist institution and we are all raised in racism as white people. This is simply a fact. And the crazy part about it is every one of us knows this. Even the ones who will sit there and fight with me to the death about it and act like it doesn't exist. Y'all know white people are racist. Y'all know about the casual racism, the casual microaggressions that we are raised in, no matter where we live in this United States of America. And this is why I will never stop. I will never stop trying to educate as a white person about racism and how we need to learn. We need to evolve. We need to do better. It's almost as if they feel like admitting to a racist institution or admitting to racism makes them this evil, terrible person. And so they would rather double down than to grow and be a good person. And that's so bad, because all that says to me is that you have a small mind and a cowardly soul. And I wish better for you than that, truly, because everything in your life will get better when you stop being so ignorant.
It started quietly, a whisper that turned into a roar. In the wake of George Floyd's murder, Breonna Taylor's name echoing across the world, something cracked open in white America. Suddenly, there was no denying it. Silence was no longer neutral. To say nothing was to choose a side. I remember scrolling through my feed and seeing white creators admitting their ignorance. They were saying things I never thought I'd hear from that demographic. Words like complicity, privilege, reparations. Some were awkward, some defensive, but many were sincere. For the first time, people who looked like them were holding up mirrors to their own communities. And that's powerful, because white supremacy doesn't crumble from the outside in, it collapses from within. When white people start calling out their racist relatives, their co-workers, their institutions, that's when systems start to shake. But the question is, will they keep that same energy when the cameras turn off?
I want to talk about how isolating it can be as a white person when you call out racism. I was at my local coffee shop. There was a guy in there saying a lot of disparaging things about Muslims. He's talking to another person as he's saying things like, I can't stand that language. I don't even know what they're saying. They need to go back. You know, the same trope. I turned to him and I said, you're being racist and I don't appreciate it. And immediately the whole place, silence. I'm looked at as like the weird one. Someone said, whoa, 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 we don't want to have that kind of conversation. So as soon as I call out and say, hey, buddy, when you call out that kind of behavior, people don't like it, and it can be very isolating. And I feel isolated right now. I'm sitting in the rain making this TikTok because I want people to know That's what it's meant to do. It's meant to isolate you. It's meant to be like, wait, did I say something wrong? Because I didn't say anything. I'm just reflecting back to this guy, hey, you got to watch your mouth when you're around me, because I don't appreciate that. If you care about this type of topic, it's important to be prepared to know that a lot of people are not going to be receptive to you calling truth to that type of power. It's going to feel isolating, and you might end up making TikToks in the middle of a courtyard in the rain just to feel some sort of validation that I did the right thing. And the guy left after I called him that.
For the past several days, all I've heard was either how much people have loved or hated Charlie Kirk. And I'm going to be honest with you. I could not stand the man. And when the more that has come out about him, the more that I didn't like him. The videos circulating of things he said and done. And it just goes to show that white folks are so sick of racist, narcissist white people that they are now turning on each other. It literally was a white Republican Trump supporter that took his life. That says a lot. When your own, not only race, but a white man with the same political views as you purposely took your life, the moment that you said what you did about gang violence speaks fucking volumes. If that doesn't tell you Trump supporter something, nothing will. That man spoke his own death into existence down to how it happened. Except it happened to be a white Trump supporter that did it. When I'm sure that he would have rather it have been a non-white person, especially somebody from another country, to do it, just so he could be a martyr or whatever, which y'all are already trying to make him out to be. Whatever. That man is looking up at us. And I do mean that literally. That man is not looking down from heaven. He is looking up, and it is hot where he is at. I promise you that. I do hate that his children and his wife had to see it. His wife knew what she was getting into, but that doesn't make it right for her and them babies to see it. I'm just glad that he can no longer teach that to them babies, but I hate that they did lose their dad. That is the only sad part about it, is I feel bad for his children. His wife knew what she was getting into, but those babies didn't. That is the only part of me that feels bad, literally, is for his children. But at the same time, maybe somebody with some sense can help come and heal their heart. Because being raised by a person like Charlie Kirk was only going to create more people like him. And like I said, even white folks are sick of it, as you can see. So those of you that are running around spewing hatred, that should be a lesson. Loud and clear.
It started quietly, a whisper that turned into a roar. In the wake of George Floyd's murder, Breonna Taylor's name echoing across the world, something cracked open in white America. Suddenly, there was no denying it. Silence was no longer neutral. To say nothing was to choose a side. I remember scrolling through my feed and seeing white creators admitting their ignorance. They were saying things I never thought I'd hear from that demographic. Words like complicity, privilege, reparations. Some were awkward, some defensive, but many were sincere. For the first time, people who looked like them were holding up mirrors to their own communities. And that's powerful, because white supremacy doesn't crumble from the outside in, it collapses from within. When white people start calling out their racist relatives, their co-workers, their institutions, that's when systems start to shake. But the question is, will they keep that same energy when the cameras turn off?
Supremacists don't believe that racism is real, and yet they accuse me of being racist towards them. Here's 3 reasons that that's actually fucking bullshit. The first is that I am white. I can't be racist to you. This is in-group hostility, babe. I just fucking hate you for who you are. Not because we have the same skin color, because you're a fucking bigot. Number 2, if you have the comprehension skills to understand what racism means, then you can actually take the time to understand that racism is something that black and brown people experience in the US. If you're like, oh my god, like people are so racist to white people, that is a myth. Do you have to worry about being profiled when you walk outside? No. Do you have to worry about being shot when police pull you over? No. If anything happens to you, people take it seriously because you're white. That is the opposite of racism. That is privilege. And number 3, talking about race does not equal racism. I talk about race because I have to, because America is built upon racial hierarchy. White people in America literally enslaved black people and imported them like a product to build society. And their labor was exploited to make white people rich. So yeah, the effects of that are going to be felt centuries later. Literally, go away. If you're not going to listen to this video, just fucking leave.
Let's be honest. Not every white person who calls out racism gets it right. Some jump into activism for clout, to appear enlightened without doing the uncomfortable work. There's a fine line between being an ally and being a savior. The difference: an ally amplifies marginalized voices. A savior centers themselves in the story. You've seen it. The viral apology videos, the "I cried when I realized I had privilege" posts. It's messy, it's cringe, and yet, it's a necessary part of the process. Because allyship isn't about perfection. It's about humility, learning when to speak and when to shut up, when to use your privilege as a shield and when to pass the mic. This movement only works when accountability doesn't feel like an attack, but an act of love, for humanity, for justice, for truth.
I can't say that I spend a lot of time hanging around racist white people, but I will say this: they will always find a way to make themselves out to be the victim. I had this one coworker in the past, let's just say her name was Barbara, okay? Barbara's this middle-aged white woman who has some racist views. One day, we've got a new girl, she's serving a table, it's full of like 8 bitchy Karens who are doing way too much. Basically, they just want to get their food for free, so they're sending everything back after they've already eaten half of it and saying like, oh, this was terrible, I didn't like this, I didn't like that, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, I felt so bad for the new girl because she's like on the verge of tears. Like, she is so flustered. These Karens are being so rude, so mean for no reason. Well, they would just want to get their food for free. I said something like, man, I hope that new girl doesn't think this is what all of our customers are like, because they are not like that. Usually they're really nice, and this is like a one-off situation, and this is like her 3rd day at work, and she's having to deal with this. I feel so bad. Barbara looks at me and goes, well, you know why that is. And I'm over here like, no, what? And she goes, it's because they're black. Immediately I shut it down and I'm like, this has absolutely nothing to do with race. That is wildly inappropriate to say. Like, I can't even tell you how many white tables I've had that have acted exactly like that and worse. I said, maybe it's because they're bitchy Karens who want their food for free, but it has absolutely nothing to do with the fact that they're black. So I felt like I set the record straight. I felt like we had an understanding, right? Anyway, Barbara goes home earlier than the rest of us. She took that opportunity to go and run and tell HR that I was discriminating against her as a Wisconsinite. Now, let me tell you what really happened. Barbara thought I was going to go to HR and tell on her for being racist. So she thought, let me go to HR first and report Axel first. Because then, whenever Axel reports me for being racist, it's going to seem like he's just making it up. And he's just mad that I reported him. So now he's making up a bunch of bullshit. And it's just retaliation. Very sneaky, very sneaky. Oh, the racist whites will always do that, won't they? They will always try to turn themselves into the victim. I ended up getting suspended for a week without pay, okay? And I lived paycheck to paycheck at the time, so that they could do an investigation into me and interview a bunch of coworkers and see if I was discriminatory against Wisconsinites. The most fucking ridiculous thing I've ever heard. All because Miss Barbara couldn't take accountability when she was caught in the act being racist. Don't worry, I ended up getting her back. She ended up quitting because she was like super embarrassed by the end of all of this. So anyway, we got her back. I'm not going to go into all of that, but we got her back and she learned her lesson, okay? I ended up really like laying into her. But anyway, just to my point, I was thinking about that today, and I was like, man, the lengths that these racist white people will go to rationalize and excuse their racism, to justify their racism, and to avoid taking accountability whenever they get caught in the act.
This isn't new. There have always been white people who fought against racism, abolitionists, civil rights workers, whistleblowers, journalists who risked their lives to expose white supremacy. But history often erases them, just like it erases the pain of those they stood beside. The truth is, whenever white people stand against white supremacy, they are treated as enemies of the system. Because they threaten the illusion of unity built on silence. From the abolitionist movement to the present-day activists exposing racism in schools, law enforcement, and corporations, white allies have played a critical role in destabilizing the very power structures they benefit from. It's uncomfortable, it's dangerous, and it's exactly what real progress looks like.
The American dream is not reality for everyone, except for the privileged few. The truth is, this American dream mindset is based on white supremacy. And if you think white supremacy is just hatred for people of color, it is so much more than that. David Gilborn, he addresses the idea of whiteness. Whiteness is a racial discourse, whereas white people are a socially constructed identity. White people don't necessarily reinforce whiteness any more than heterosexual people reinforce or are homophobic. I'm betting most white people haven't educated themselves on this idea of whiteness. We can't see the problem of white supremacy because we've lived free from it our whole life. White supremacy is our privilege. It's who we are. To call it out is to call out our very being. It's no wonder that white people get defensive. I'm continually amazed at some of the comments I get from white people about my thoughts on white supremacy. They act like it doesn't exist. I said in a recent post, if you only hang out with white people, then you're racist. Instead of maybe looking at their own lives to question if maybe it's true, they get defensive and argue semantics. That is white supremacy. Read a book. They've clearly not educated themselves by walking in another person's shoes. This is white supremacy. Figure things out on your own. Go make money. Anybody can do it. Hide, bury, ignore your emotions. This is white supremacy because this is an individualistic mindset. The opposite of that is owning the pain that you have inflicted on others and doing something about it. Maybe the biggest problem in this for white people is that they're too afraid to admit their own role in racism because they don't want to get uncomfortable. It seems that what most of us oblivious whites get wrong is that regardless of guilt or fault, we need to admit we're uneducated on this topic. One of the reasons why some won't is because we're afraid to get uncomfortable. And even when I don't think I've done anything wrong, someone else's perspective is no less true. And to wholeheartedly care for that person requires setting aside my own shit and understanding life from their point of view. And what actual steps do we need to take as white people? In what ways do we need to get uncomfortable? We can't possibly understand what it's like to be targeted by racism. As a white person, how do I even put myself in the shoes of people of color? My privilege is attached to my skin. I can't separate from it. I mean, can we ever truly comprehend the lived experience of being abused by systemic injustices? Maybe this is where we failed people of color. We can't relate, so we buy into the bullshit we've been told our whole lives, like everybody has an equal shot. Just work hard. If you fuck up, then that's your own fault. I mean, we say things like this instead of looking at the serious offenses being committed every day right in front of us. Getting uncomfortable means facing the truth of this oppression, sitting down with a person of color, listening to their story, putting yourself in a setting to feel the actual weight of this atrocity, feeling it in the pit of your stomach like you just lost your whole world. It takes a whole lot of security, humility to own your shit, to apologize. And if you can't do that, well then you will perpetuate harm. And that's what white people have done to people of color.
Now we're at a crossroads. White America is looking at itself in the mirror, and the reflection isn't pretty. But here's the thing. Awareness doesn't equal change. It's easy to post a hashtag, harder to dismantle an inheritance. The real question is, can white people police their own communities with the same urgency they demand accountability from others? Because it's not enough to say, I'm not racist. The question is, are you anti-racist? Are you willing to lose comfort, relationships, or privilege to make space for justice?
When someone says all white people are racist, they're not saying all white people are bad. They're saying all white people are subject to the sociological and psychological conditioning of society where racism is a fundamental systemic issue. They're saying all white people suffer from the sociological phenomenon of living in a world, in a country where racism, systemic racism, is a fundamental thing that makes that society exist. That means as white people we have subconscious processes and behaviors that come out as a direct result of that. Behaviors that actively cause harm to other people, behaviors we need to become aware of, mindsets we need to work on.
I'm going to say the part that I think a lot of liberal white women are afraid to say out loud because we're afraid to come off as complaining or making an excuse. But I think it is something that we as a collective unit need to solve for. That said, the comment section is not for bitching, moaning, and complaining. The comment section is for brainstorming. We don't have community. We don't. We are largely, and if you are lucky enough to not have this experience, and I love that for you, but we are largely the black sheep of our families. We are ostracized from a lot of social groups. And we are the, crazy liberal lady, right? The unfortunate reality is we are part of the oppressive group. And the oppressive group does not want people like us to be part of it. So a very universal experience is that we lose family members, we lose friendships, we lose relationships when we stand up for our morals. That said, we have to start creating this community because we have to start doing this together and not entirely individualistic. So again, brainstorm in the comments.
The work isn't finished. It never was. But something powerful is happening. White people are finally realizing that anti-racism isn't about guilt. It's about responsibility. Every uncomfortable conversation, every moment of reflection, every time a white person checks another white person, that's one brick removed from a wall built generations ago. So here's the challenge. If you're white and you're watching this, ask yourself, where do you stand when your silence feels safest? Because true allyship isn't loud, it's consistent, it's uncomfortable, and it's necessary.